Hello, welcome to more yoga with me, Emily. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that you're doing well and having a good day, whether this is the very beginning of your day or later on in the afternoon or evening. I thought today we would just get a little bit playful and just move within the positions that we do so frequently. Right? And that's the thing about yoga, or not the thing, but one thing about yoga, especially the physical practice, is there aren't that many positions for us to do every day, particularly if you're not teaching or not going through poses like handstand, right, or inversions, which I don't feel comfortable teaching over a video. So it's about finding little variations within these postures that we do in theory all the time. So that being said, let's start in a seated position. I'm going to sit up on a little chip foam block. Just helps release my hip flexors a little bit so that I can stay here with a longer spine. I don't have to fight to find that stability. You don't have to sit cross-legged like this. You could sit in a normal cross-legged or with on your shins or with your legs outstretched, right? Wherever feels comfortable for you. And then I invite you to close your eyes. And for a few breaths, inhale through your nose. Exhale, sigh your breath away. A couple more. And continue breathing however you need to, whether it's in and out through your nose or your mouth. Notice how your breath is flowing, if it feels really open and spacious. Or maybe you notice some sticky or choppy spots along the way. If that's the case, you might start to lengthen through those parts just to smooth your breath out a little bit more without forcing it. You might notice the movement in the belly or the rib cage with every inhale and exhale. And your thoughts may start to wander, or rather your mind might start to wander to different thoughts. If you notice this happening, just acknowledge whatever thoughts you might be having, but then gently bring your focus back to your breath if you can. And in that way, you're able to achieve, at least, if only for a split second, an equanimous mind. Last couple of breaths here. And then gently allow your chin to come to your chest. Feel that length that all of a sudden happens along the spine. And then bring your right ear to your shoulder. A few breaths here, just getting into the neck. On the left side, you could reach the left fingertips away from you. You might even Gently bring the weight of the right hands to your head. And then maintaining that lateral flexion in the neck, start to rotate your nose toward your shoulder. Tuck the chin under slightly. And if you have your hand on your head, gently release it to the floor. Bring your chin back to your chest. Couple little half moon circles of your head. And then gently bring your left ear to your shoulder. We don't want to be rounding, so try to keep the spine long. Again, this might be enough for you, or maybe you gently reach the right fingertips away from you on the earth. If you'd like even more, you can add the weight of the left hand to your head without yanking or pulling. And then maintaining that lateral flexion, start to rotate your nose toward your shoulder, tuck the chin under slightly. And then if you have your hand on your head, release. Bring your chin to your chest. A couple little half moon circles of your head here. A little head bobble. Shake out the arms. And then make your way to hands and knees. So coming to a nice tabletop position, toes can be tucked or untucked. Hands really quite wide, outer shoulder width apart or wider. Spread the fingertips wide. And then inhale, lift the tailbone, hollow through the lower back, broaden through the collarbones. And then exhale, round through your spine. So we'll start to move through these cat and cow undulations, however you need to move today. Right, and again, we're exploring movement within these postures. So if you never wag your tail here in cow, you could try it, or even in cat. Maybe you take big barrel rolls through your chest and shoulders. And just go where you need to go, but get curious. Last 2 breaths here. And then slowly come back to center. Look forward, and then just step forward into your standing forward fold. So keep the knees bent. You could clasp opposite elbows with hands if you would like that little bit more length, more traction through the spine. Depending on how your body feels today, maybe you need or want more support. Whether it's resting the elbows on the knees or thighs, or bringing the floor up to you with a block or even a coffee table underneath your hands. Maybe you sway a little bit from side to side, a little bounce or wiggle, whatever you need. And then release your hands if they're bound, and with your fingertips to your shins, inhale, lift up partway, belly button to spine. Find length through the spine. Exhale, let it all go. Couple more on your own time, on your own breath. Inhale to lift. Exhale to fold. And then bend your knees, head heavy, arms heavy. Slowly start to roll up to standing, 1 vertebra at a time. You can pause along the way and maybe Take a little wiggle from side to side. Just see how it feels to move here. And then once you're all the way up, couple loops of the shoulders, up, back, and down, and then shake out the arms and legs. Bring your feet back to hip width apart-ish, and find some buoyancy on your knees here. Because this next thing that we do, if you try to do it with your knees straight, it doesn't work very well. So knees bent. And similar to what we did seated, bring your right ear to your shoulder. And then chin to chest. And then left ear to shoulder. And then chin to chest. And right ear to shoulder, but we'll start to add a little bit more body now. So bring in the shoulder girdle. And then start to fold a little bit more deeply. So every time that you come forward, add a little bit more of your body into this movement. Again, knees stay bent until eventually you come so far sideways, sticking the hips out to the side that you have to flop forward and then come back up. It's almost as if you're leading with your shoulder or elbow as you come up, almost like a marionette. And you can even exaggerate that movement if it helps you stay in this lateral flexion. You don't want to turn to the side and then forward fold. You want to get this kind of peculiar lateral flexion. You could bring bigger arms into it if you want. A few more of these. And they can feel, as I said, quite peculiar if you're not used to this movement, which why would you be? And then the next time that you come up, as long as you're even on both sides, pause there, shake it out a little bit. Okay, so this sort of lateral flexion and extension, right? We don't do a lot of it in our daily lives, but it's a way that the spine moves. So it's a really great way to maintain that spinal health. And again, moving within our poses is the name of the game today. So come on back to the top edge of your mat. Send your weight to your right foot. Little buoyancy on that supporting knee. Pick up the left leg and then step back for a high lunge. Now, as always, you can always release that back knee to the floor if you would prefer to come into a low lunge instead. And then try bending both knees. Wrap your back hip forward, your front hip back. And then start to supercharge the back leg towards straight. Squeeze the bum, squeeze the top of the thigh, little draw of belly button to spine. So you want your back leg really, really strong. And then inhale the arms up high. Chill out on the shrug muscles. And then the more that back leg works, the less the front leg has to do. And the more stable you're going to be when we start to move here. So exhale, sweep the torso forward. Bring the arms behind you. Inhale back up. Now it can be really slow and controlled like we just did, or you could fly and rebound, go where you need to go. It's wobblier here in high lunge than when we do this in warrior one. And it's okay if you fall out. One more breath. Okay. And then bring your arms to prayer. Lean forward on a long line. Wrap the back hip forward. Exhale, twist to the right. Now you can stay up nice and high if you like to. Maybe you sink into that front knee a little bit more. Hook the left elbow onto the outside of the right knee. Your palms could be flat together in prayer. You might take Hakini Mudra instead. As soon as we twist, we forget about the back leg though. So keep working it towards straight. Press elbow into knee, knee into elbow, and then inhale back up. Exhale, hands to the floor. This time, if you're not already there, release your back knee to the floor or to a chip foam block. And then come up to half kneeling. And back out of the hips a little bit. Shake it out. Just give the glutes on that front leg a little bit of a rest. And then shift forward again. Squeeze the bum on the left leg. Grab hold of the sky with the right hand. Exhale, sweep the left hand to the earth. So now an open twist. Where we were in a closed twist, Now, nice and open. Fingertips could be on the floor or on a block. Wrap both shoulders onto your back. Particularly that bottom one, don't let it jut forward. You might draw big sweeping shapes with that top arm. And as always, if you want, you can go into high lunge here. But find movement if you can, or at least a different variation of the pose than you would normally take. And then slowly inhale, come back to center. Shift your hips back as you extend through the front leg. Half splits, hands could be on hips, on blocks, on the floor, wherever you need to go. Wrap the left hip forward, draw the right hip back, and then find buoyancy on that supporting knee. Or not supporting knee, it's the extended leg. And then inhale, rock back into that front knee. Walk your fingertips or your blocks forward if you're using them. And then as you inhale, start to send the weight all the way forward. Lift the back leg into a standing L stretch or standing splits. Go where you need to go today. And it might not be super crazy high, particularly if reaching the floor is tricky. Bend your knee, supporting knee a lot. Look back at the lifted toes. Make sure that you can see them. Flex them towards the floor rather than out toward the left. And then exhale, curl into a little ball, bending both knees. Inhale, lift back up. Exhale, curl. Inhale, lift. Last time. And then exhale, step into your standing forward fold. Little wiggle or sway or bounce. And then inhale, lift up, part way. Exhale, let it all go. Charge your legs. Inhale, sweep all the way up to the sky. Exhale, hands to prayer. Whew. Release the hands, shake it out a little bit. That is not where I was intending on going, but that was good. That was fun. I hope you enjoyed it as well. I'm going to bring this other block to the top edge of my mat because I feel like using 2 blocks today instead of 1. Okay, send the weight to the left leg. A little buoyancy on that supporting knee. Belly button to spine. And then pick up the right leg. Step it back for high lunge. Again, if you would prefer to be in low lunge, you can. Otherwise, stay here with me. Bend both knees or wrap the right hip forward. Draw the left hip back. And then start to supercharge your back leg towards straight. If possible, try not to have the back heel reaching further back. If you can, stack the heel over your back toes so it becomes a really strong position. It's almost like a Barbie doll foot. It takes a lot of flexibility through the soles of the feet. Squeeze the bum, squeeze the top of the thigh. Sink into the front knee. Inhale the arms high. And then exhale, sweep the torso forward. Arms behind you. Inhale. Whew. Come back up. And exhale, sweep. So again, this can be slow and controlled. It can be full of wild abandon. But the more you work that back leg, the easier the balance will be. Not that it will be easy, but easier. Okay, bring your hands to prayer. Lean forward on that long line. Inhale here. Exhale, twist to the left. So again, you might stay kind of open. You might sink a little bit deeper, bringing the right elbow to the left knee. Go palm to palm or fingertips. And don't forget about that back leg. Supercharge it towards straight. Press elbow into knee, knee into elbow. And then spiral the upper left ribs open to the sky. And then inhale, unwind. Exhale, bring the hands to the earth and gently release your back knee to the floor. Back out of the hips a little bit to just shake it out. And then sink back into that front knee. Left hand grabs the sky. Right hand reaches to the earth. Sorry, I'm cramping. And then spiral, right? Twist to to the left. So nice open twist. You could be still if you want to, or maybe you explore moving here. And back knee could be down or up. Last couple breaths. And then slowly unwind, exhale, shift the hips back. As you extend through that front leg, wrap the right hip forward, draw the left hip back. You can hold onto a wall or blocks or the floor or adjust your hips. Couple of breaths here. You might stay tall. You might choose to bow over top of that front leg. Last breath here. And then inhale, rock forward. Walk your fingertips or your blocks forward. And then start to de-weight the back leg for your standing splits. Wrap the outer left hip back. Maybe your leg is quite low today, and that's totally fine. Maybe it's lifting a little bit higher. Make sure the toes are directed toward the earth rather than out toward the right. And then exhale, curl into a little ball. Inhale, lift back up. Exhale, curl. Inhale, lift. One more time. Exhale, step into your standing forward fold. Little wiggle. Or sway or bounce. And then for 3 breaths, inhale, lift up partway. Exhale, let it all go. 2 more. Bend your knees, plant your hands. Come back to hands and knees. Little wiggle or shake. You might choose to stay here, moving and grooving, and hands and knees or cat and cow. Or maybe you start to send your hips all the way back for child's pose. Whether the knees whether the knees are wide or close together. And if you're still on hands and knees, join me in child's pose. And then walk the upper body over to the left. It's natural for the hips or the head to lift a little bit here. You could clamp down on top of the right hand with the left or grab the wrist. Getting a long line through the right side of the body. And then inhale through center and then over to the right. Getting that long line through the left side now. Puff up into the ribs. And then slowly come back to center. Press yourself back up, hands and knees, or even just a little wiggle here. And then shift to your hips. And then bring the legs forward. Shake them out a little bit. You can take a little windshield wiper of the knees. And then one last thing before we come down to the floor, and that's going to be butterfly pose. And I know for a lot of you, even for me, some days butterfly pose is not like a super comfy place to be. Your knees might be really up high, and that's totally normal and fine. You can have blocks or pillows to bring underneath the knees. One trick with butterfly is it is really useful if you can sit up on something. It just helps tilt the pelvis forward. Same thing that I did at the very start. It releases into the hips. And then 2 options. One is drawing the heels close toward you. You get more into the groin. The further away the heels are from you, the more you get into the outer hips. So set up how you would like to set up. And then try not to hold on to the toes. You can grab your ankles if you wish. Inhale, lift, and then exhale, come forward on a long line. So keep the spine long. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to be really far forward. And then maybe you take a little twist to the left, or walk the upper body over to the right. If that all feels all right, maybe you start to round through your spine. And then walk the upper body to the left. Maybe you stay here. Maybe you go over to the right. But again, the idea is to find a little bit of movement here, even if that means that you're pretty much upright, but just taking a little twist. That's cool. Go where you need to go. For me, this feels really good. So I'm going to stay here for a couple breaths. Last 2 breaths, wherever you need to be. And then slowly return to center. Roll yourself back up. You can use your hands underneath your thighs to draw them together. Shake it all out. Yeah, that feels, well, it's a good release anyway. I always say, well, that feels good, but sometimes it doesn't feel good. Sometimes it feels quite intense. And then plant your feet, start to roll down onto your back. Hug your knees into your chest. Little rock from side to side. And then plant your feet to the floor, mat width apart. And then allow your knees to take a little windshield wiper. And then the next time they're over to the left, pause there. So kind of a mix of a hip flexor release as well as a twist. Some of you might hook that left ankle over top of the right thigh. You could be passive here, or you could squeeze the bum on the right side. Go where you need to go. And if your foot is hooked on the thigh, unhook it, and then inhale back to center, a little windshield wiper. And the next time your knees are over to the right, pause there. Again, maybe this is just enough for you today. It's not necessarily always about going to the deepest or most intense variation, but if you want to, maybe you hook the right ankle over top of the left thigh. Maybe squeeze the bum on the left leg. You don't have to. And then unhook the foot if it's there. Inhale back to center. And then start to release for your rest. Maybe you feel like you need a little hug of the legs toward you, or a little shake out or something before you go find your rest, in which case go where you need to go. And then start to think about where you would like to be for your rest, whether it's flat on your back, legs bent, or straight. You could rest on your side or in a seated meditation. And then once you've found your pose of rest, for 3 breaths, inhale through your nose. Exhale, sigh your breath away. Couple more. And then let go of all breath control. Let go of any last muscle gripping or tension, particularly in your face or your jaw. As each exhale, let your body melt a little bit deeper into the earth. And stay here longer if you can, 5, 10, 15 minutes. Thank you so much for joining me today. Namaste.